Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started.
Okie dokie.
So I'm pretty sure everyone in here is already pretty familiar with like the rock paper scissors concept. Um, but every time I work with a new team and you guys are still relatively new, I always go over this stuff so that I have all my bases covered and everyone's kind of like already on the same page, like no matter what. Because remember that forum that I sent you guys? Like, hey, fill this out and let me know, like, where you're at with like your game knowledge. And a lot of you guys were like in the eights, but some like one or two of you were like 6 or 7, which is fine. That's average. But because my goal is to make that like a 10 or like as close to 10 as possible. So, not that it's a bad thing that you didn't get 10s across the board because nobody's ever perfect, but that's just the goal that I strive to have, you know what I mean? So, anyway, um I just do this stuff so that I know everyone's like got this knowledge, at least from me personally, so that it makes um my future teaching a lot easier, if that makes sense. So we shall move on. So I like to do this exercise, and I know we've like glanced over this PowerPoint before, so I'm gonna skip this, but I like to have these activities where, like, in the beginning, I'll like ask, okay, what do you think these comps like? What their play style is, like, how do you play them, what the composition is, so on and so forth. But I'm gonna skip this for now. This is just what I'm gonna talk about specifically. There's gonna be a few like sections we're gonna go over, but I'm not gonna visit this for long. I just put it in there to kind of know we're getting ourselves into. So we're gonna start with dive. So dive is what we play for the most part with our Doom comms, right? Utilizes each hero's abilities to close the distance between you and the enemy or whatever our dive target is. Um, and our usual win condition for dive comms are just picking on like the least mobile target and collapse on it as soon as possible, all at once though. Not like one at a time, because that would be staggering. But dive is most efficient with taking a longer time to set up and having faster fights compared to setting up super fast and then having long sloppy fights because there isn't as much organization as there could be. I don't know if you recall, but there was a moment of feedback that I had a couple scrims ago, when I told you guys to take longer to set up in order to have faster like dive engages. That's kind of what I was talking about here was this slide, I guess. And after this slide, I added a few little moments, or like slides that kind of have an example of what you would think of when you think of like dive comps or like play styles. So obviously this is like a lot of these can be used in different types of like compositions, but that also means that like they're kind of, I wouldn't say hybrid, but I want to emphasize that these like dive quote comps are not actually compositions, they're just play styles. Like you're playing as a dive, so that could also mean you play Diva and you can have like an Echo or like you can have like a Tracer Sombra, but you can easily swap out the Diva for like a Queen and still technically have like dive elements, but it would be more brawly, if that makes sense. So there's small things that you can pick and choose that can um turn into like a hybrid playstyle where it starts from one type of playstyle and blends into another, but we'll go over that later. So I have some clips of what dive looks like. I'll play like one of them. Um, let's go with this one. So, believe it or not, there was actually an Arcana, Team Tower Arcana before you guys, and this was the OG team. Um, This is from one of the scrins, the replay codes that they posted, and I really liked how they engaged with this dive. So this Winston's actually in a pretty okay spot. He's getting dove, so you know that's not great. But we have two other people here too that are gonna collapse as well. And I just want you guys to see how this plays out. And then they end up diving on the brig, so on and so forth. You kind of see how that came together, or do you? Here, I'll play
Can
it
you
with
play through it again? Also, is Violet defending?
Yes, they are defense, and we are attack.
Okay.
And then I have another clip that probably shows the diving a little better. This was a low GM team, EU low GM team that I coached for a while. This is the team that I coached. We are on attack right now, and they are on defense. I'm not sure if you remember, but I did post this exact clip in paperwork to show how the Genji Doom dive worked. I'll go
Rest in
into a
peace,
different.
Genji.
Yeah, but I go through different points of view so that you could see the purple come flying in as the Doom and the Genji go in at literally the same time and kind of just follow up. Which is cool. Like, if we have, I will die on this hill. If we have a Genji player that is competent enough, I'm more than happy to play more Doom comps with Genji and stuff. So, but yeah, so the Genji and the Doom went in together like we do when we're playing our Doom comps. But that's just a few examples of what the dive comps would look like for us. Okay. So now we move on to spam. Spam or poke. Reminder that these are like playstyles, not necessarily compositions. They thrive mostly off of taking two or more angles, emphasis on two, while like some of the brawl comps that we have really only need a maximum of two to really get its value, but this really needs like more than two, probably a minimum of three, I'd say, because it's so heavily reliant on how we need to get picks in order for us to take space. So usually in poke comps like this, it's heavily reliant on a DPS difference. So that means, let's just say we play a Sigma poke comp, which would be Sigma, Hanzo, Widow, and Baptiste and Zen, right? So that's a very like classic poke spam playstyle composition. Um, if we, let's just say hypothetically we're playing into a mirror, right? If it comes down to a mirror situation, it literally just is duels. So whoever loses their individual duel, like their mirror matchup, then the whoever won that initial duel wins. So once that pick comes off, then they start collapsing and like challenging other angles, or just there's more it's a little bit more complicated than what I'm describing it to be, but I hope you're getting the general idea of what I'm going for here. Yes? Are we all
Yes.
we're all
Yes.
together, like we're paying attention and everything? If there are
Yes.
questions or like something you're confused about, please speak up. I won't be mad or anything. The worst thing I want is for people to be confused in silence. So please speak up. Don't be afraid to like ask questions or anything. Um, so spam poke is also really good at map control. So um like Circuit Royale or like any super linear maps like Junkertown, or even, um, what's that one map? Monastery? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Shambhala?
Shambali.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But like maps like that that are super have like multiple angles that you can poke from, like super kill box heavy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yes.
So when you think of spam poke, this is kind of what I think of, like Sigma, Roadhog, Ilari, Lifeweaver, and these damage heroes like Symmetrafara, Bastion, so on and so forth. Yeah? So I actually want to show this one particular clip. It actually has Taken in it. Um, but I want to emphasize this screenshot and I want to talk about how many different angles that this team is taking in order to maximize the value that their poke comp has. So Sigma is taking this angle here. Sojourn is looking down this angle here. Even though it's like a narrow angle, it's still a different angle, right? Because there's a window here. Um, and then we have our own mirror window that's looking down this angle as well. You get the idea, right? And Lucio is like patrolling point, whatever. And he's just gonna be booping people into sight lines, so on and so forth. Yeah? And I will show you this clip while I take a bite of my food.
This ends now.
Even though our Sojourn isn't doing much except standing on this, like, ad booth or whatever, this is still a path or a lane that they're keeping an eye on, and along with that lane, they're looking this way too. So they're literally just looking at these two doorways. And that already covers two angles, right? Sigma's also looking over here. Whatever. Like, this whole point is ours because we have all this space to work with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to get back into the fucking slideshow after these videos. I'm such a boomer. Okay. Now we're gonna get into the brawl stuff. Sorry, I'm chewing. Brawl. When I think of brawl, I think goats. Rhine Rush. Zarya. Even Diva can be played in brawl. So it's just playstyles that play as a whole group like a ball, like a death ball, cohesive, and can live through mid to long-term fights. So they usually have high survivability, and that not only includes the backline pumping out a lot of heals, but it also involves the heroes in that composition itself to have high survivability. So like Reaper, Mei. Honestly, Cassidy maybe not. I unironically, Torbjorn's pretty good in Brawl depending on like map. You know what I mean?
Uh,
And the only reason why I say Brawl, not Brawl, Torbjorn can be used in Brawl is because his turret is like a sixth person, but it is map dependent. So like I wouldn't
I
play Torbjorn with a Rhine, but you could definitely get away with a Torbjorn with like a Queen or even Maga, I feel like, depending on the map, but I digress, right? So it's the main win condition of Brawl is that we always have to close the distance because most Brawl comps are valuable at short to mid range. So like whatever Ryan can hit or whatever Queen can hit. It's Brawl's in my understanding of Brawl, it's really limited to what your tank can do. At least that's my interpretation of it. So some examples of what comes to mind with Brawl comps are like Orisa, Reinhardt, Queen, Brig, Lucio, Moira, even Baptiste. Um, And then the classics like May Reaper, Symmetra, so on and so forth. This is my favorite Brawl clip, I think, because I think Symmetra TPs on Lijiang are the most entertaining type of Brawl IMO, so we can watch this clip. And just notice how, like, we're literally just getting in their face. Classic Brawl stuff. Nothing crazy. But you get the idea, right? Just Brawl. Just getting in their face, doing whatever. Oh, there's 2 other clips happening at once. Stop! Oh my god. I'm such a boomer right now. Christ. So hybrid, it lives up to his name, right? It's just a mixture of one or more types of playstyles. So like 6-man rush in Overwatch 1, like late Overwatch 1, Ramatra comps are big, like that's a huge, like, when I think of hybrid, I think of Ramatra. Or even like Doomfist, because you can do a lot of well, not Doomfist. Probably Queen's a better answer there. Yeah. So there isn't a black and white win condition for hybrids. It really just depends on the elements that are, or like the heroes that are inside the composition itself, which is where things get really complicated. And like I said earlier, hybrid comps usually have like one playstyle blending into another. So like with the 6-man rush, it would be Winston, Diva, Reaper, Sombra, Moira, Lucio. And it would initially start off as a brawl, or not as a brawl, it would start off as a dive, and then it would blend into a brawl because of the Moira and the Lucio, the survivability of it. And then the Ramatra comps, Ramatra literally has a brawling form and a poking form. So you kind of get the idea of that, but there's no such thing as a tempo tank. That's never been a thing, and I'm gonna nuke that thought at the bud if anyone was thinking that. There is such thing as tempo, but not tempo tanks or tempo heroes.
I think it's just that every tank is a tempo tank.
I wouldn't even say tempo tank is even a right thought process. That's not a thing. Tempo is a thing, but if we're talking about tempo tank being a thing, it would be the tanks you would think of like with hybrid comps. But even then, that's not the right thing to call it. When I think of hybrid heroes, I think of like Maga, Orisa, Ramatra, even Diva, because you can play her in Brawl and in Dive. Baptiste, Kiriko, because you see Kiriko in a lot of dive comps because she has mobility, but she also has a lot of poke, like not one shot potential anymore, but she can put out a lot of damage just like Baptiste can. Same thing with like Torb, Sojourn, Bastion, because you can see Bastion in a lot of like Brawl. Like you could technically play Bastion with Ryan comps. Is it recommended? No, but it's possible, especially with Bastion's new like turret form like transformation. So, I want to really emphasize this comment that I made here. This is when you really start to actually look at like the hero's abilities and how their cooldowns interact with each other, which can lead to things being utilized in an untraditional way. So remember when we were doing Circuit Royale that a while back, it was during a scrim block, and I was like, okay, play Baptiste and play Ana, and play for purples. And I remember Soap saying we should probably have the Zen over the Ana, but I contested and I said, no, play for purples. There's a method to my madness here. And the method to my madness was playing for the purples was the win condition. Because even if we don't have a Discord for the damage amplification, if they can't cleanse the purple, it's just as, like, impactful. So that's what I meant by untraditional, because there are technically compositions that you could play that get you easier value. Um, but you don't necessarily have to play those things. You can easily play into your strengths. And with those strengths, you can get creative with how you can play into meta, for example, which right now is Maga comps. I'm gonna fucking shoot myself. Like, I hate Maga comps. They're so boring to watch. Like, I hate it. But I digress. So, with that in mind, I wanna play this game right now. I'm gonna play this game with y'all. So what's this first comp, right? So I kind of identify what kind of playstyle this would be. And if
Oh,
you guys can
Fandral.
tell me, the specific phases of like
Uh,
how the comp is played, bonus points.
Spam Brawl.
Lucio and the Hanzo are gonna be at off angle, and then like they're looking for a pick. If they don't get a pick, then they're playing for Maywall, and then it turns into Brawl with Nemesis.
Yeah.
That's on defense. Uh,
So then how would you play it on attack?
if you're attacking, I think
Mhm.
that you're stacking as 5, and then you're like playing for recon for info, and then it would just be like 5 stack look for wall. I don't think that on attack you have as many openings for the angle with the Hanzo,
Um.
but like it's map dependent. If there's a map where it's like, oh, you get this angle for free and they're not contesting it, then it's a little bit easier.
Mhm.
And the Lucio probably helps them with the off angle there too.
So what about this ball comp then?
That's full dive.
Mhm. Does anybody know what kind of dive this is though?
Uh, the Sombra's picking target. And then the the ball comes in, he's early, and then Sombra hacks, and then Tracer, Lucio, and Kiri are late for the dive.
Mm.
I don't know exactly what you mean by what type of dive though.
I was more looking for like a ball, like literally just ball dive, but there was an asterisk, an invisible asterisk by it, because ball dives are like a beast of their own, right? Because like everyone on this team can function independently, and this was before the summer change, by the way. Um, so the main win condition would be if EMP. So we always be playing for EMP as much as possible. And we do Summer does technically call the dive targets, but um there's a few steps before the dive target becomes like an important like
It's just
piece
like
of the puzzle.
the.
So remember I mentioned this two-step engage thing? I'll
I
bring it
feel
up.
like.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I feel like the Kiri, Lucio, and Tracer sort of play together, and like they're setting up on an off angle. Like you're
Mm,
giving up space
no,
to set up the kill box.
this would involve a Reddit Lucio,
I
not a team Lucio. Like I said, everyone functions independently. Everyone has their own angle. I mean, sometimes Ball and Tracer would play together. Like sometimes, oh god. But for the most part, everyone's like functioning independently. So like Lucio's gonna try and contest their Lucio, or like force a cooldown or bad positioning out. But again, that's relying on their mechanics and everything, right? What about this Winston comp?
That's Overwatch 1.
Is it?
Yeah, the Brig Anna. I was just making a joke about what they were
Oh,
running.
okay.
Spam dive.
that was a really bad joke, Logan. Try again.
No. Anyway, spam dive.
It, so just what's it called? You have 3-man backline, and then it looks like a Gibby dive.
Like a what dive?
Gibraltar. I feel like
Mhm.
you don't play this on like you only play this map. Sorry, you only play this comp on like Gibraltar and Dorado.
That's a pretty good call. I'm pretty sure I did take the screenshot on Gibraltar. What about the bottom one? The bottom
Brawl
comp was
spam.
like was meta for like months.
Spam brawl.
Who plays
I feel
where?
Wait,
like
that's like the
so
current meta.
so I think Tracer takes off angle. Lucy and Tank go main, and then the Soj and the Kiri take off angle as well, like on the other side of the map to where the Tracer is. And then Kiri can TP back to Tank mid fight for support there. So it would be poke into brawl.
Very good. Good answers, boys. Okay.
Also, I have bad news for you, Lilac. That last comp you shown is meta still.
Not really. If you have a good Ramattra, then like, yeah, but Ramattra gets fucked on by Maga right now.
Yeah. That's just an OWCS games I've been seeing. It's been a lot of that exact comp.
Yeah, I know. It's like Ramattra and Sigma are kind of interchangeable in regards to like Ramattra plays a little differently than Sigma, of course, because he has the brawl and poke aspect to him. But depending on who you play with the Sigma, you may as well just play somebody who's better at Sigma than the Ramatra, because at that point it's just, what is your player better at, Sigma or Ramatra? So, and I feel like, well, no, Sigma and Ramatra are both equally fucked on by Maga, so anyway. So, what we just learned about, right? I kind of want to look at the things you just looked at and like apply it to what we run. So, how do we think this Doom Dive is gonna work? How is it played? Is it fast or slow paced? And
Fast.
how do we use slow? Why are you saying slow?
So uh what I'm thinking is that like you're trying to bait out to get punch, you get your charge punch, and then Tracer scouts while he's getting his punch. Once you get your punch, you like wait for your cooldown to reset like halfway. And then assuming Tracer doesn't get reset, then it's like Doom punches in, Tracer engages Echo Fly.
Honestly, unless we have like resources to give us a reason to want an empowered punch, I don't try to wait for him to get punched. I usually just try to get our dive going without the punch and just have him going with the block. But when I have pulse bomb, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I really want him to have empowered punch, so I can try to stick what he punches. But I've only done that twice. But usually I don't wait. I don't want to wait for the empowered punch.
How do we use our ultimates and abilities?
Doomfist uses for survivability. Echo uses
It's either
any number
tempo
of
or
ways.
survivability. For pulse, that's like you open up with it. It's either you're engaging with it or it's for survivability. Kitsune, tempo, or you open with it. Echo depends on what you're going against. That's the wild card.
Echo is like pulse bomb on crack.
Is tempo or survivability.
I think Doom's just survivability.
I think Doom is just survivability.
No, because like it's like with D.Va, right? Like you can play more aggressive and have like a higher tempo.
Sure,
if
but
you have his ult up.
I get what you mean, but I'd say it's just you're playing for survivability, and as a result, you get to keep playing fast.
D.Va is only useful because of her mech, right? So when she gets demeched, her bomb is just either a zoning ult or just to remech.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even right, but that's more survivability than it is tempo, though. That's what I'm trying to say. So we were half right, half wrong. What did I write? Playstyles hybrid, dive and brawl. I'd say it's fast paced because you're constantly going. There's a high uptime. If there's high uptime, then it's very fast paced. If there's low uptime, then it's slow. So like poke, not a lot of uptime. Because you're busy trying to like set up, take angles, waiting for that pick to happen. That's what makes it slow paced. But with this comp, we don't really need to wait very long. The most waiting we have to do is Doom. And maybe Tracer. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of uptime with this comp. Scout the target, countdown engage, so on and so forth. Pretty sure we're very well rehearsed on how we're supposed to run this down main or run it down mid. So how are we gonna consider Queen Rush? How do we think it's played? Fast or slow paced? And how do we use our ultimates and abilities for this to be successful?
I want to say this one's going to be slower paced because I assume we're going to be doing about the same thing as we did if we had a Sojourn. We're waiting on a knife to be able to collapse on.
Are you sure about that?
Not sure.
Hmm.
I'm
And-
never sure.
This is
I'm gonna be honest. This is just really I don't like to say reactionary, but it just depends on the enemy team a little bit.
Mhm.
Because if we miss a knife or something like that, well, we're not really looking for a knife in the first place. Unless somebody's out of position, we just knife them or
Mhm.
just collapse on them every time. Because we have amp. So if we see a Zenyatta that's like just a little bit in front of like a brig or something, and he's like standing next to their tank for some reason, we just amp on them and we're not in danger because we have shout, it's Tracer Echo, and it's Moira. There's nobody endangered if we collapse on a target that's out of position. Our goal is to find somebody out of position. And if we don't find anybody out of position, we're playing slower. We have Echo to poke out. We have Tracer playing an off angle, a slight off angle, not something crazy. And we have Moira to keep us up longer. And we have Lucio to disengage if we need to, or
I
engage
think
if
the
we need
Moira's
to.
dissonant with this mindset.
I
you mean?
disagree.
Because Moira she wants to play fast, and she wants to play stacked. And this comp wants to do neither.
That's not true at all.
We're
Like, we're
definitely
not
playing
playing
stack
stacked
up
at
this
all.
comp.
What? With Trey
We're
Echo?
playing to collapse and brawl. Because we're gonna have Queen and Tracer very close to each other a lot of the time. Moira's not gonna struggle to heal this team.
Would you
And
think
these
differently
two,
if this Echo was a Sojourn?
No, like I think it's fine if it's a Sojourn, because then the Sojourn has the option to play with team or play on an off angle.
Well, so does Echo.
all these heroes have the option of playing with their team.
Yeah, but like Sojourn thrives more with like the team and to get her charge, and then she bursts onto the off angle. Echo needs the off angle to get her burst to succeed.
Yes and no. You can still play her similarly to how you can play Sojourn. And that's essentially how she's played anyways. Every time I've seen like a Sojourn and an Echo be interchangeable. They're played similarly, not like exactly the same. Yeah, you're not wrong in regards to the Echo needing to like get the bombs off and get value from the off angle. But because she has her glide, it's a lot easier to like go in between your team and whatever angle they're going on. Like Sojourn slide. You know, obviously it's on cooldown, you know, just like her slide, but she still has the same mobility, if not more, than Sojourn. Her ultimate is not the same as Sojourn, obviously, but it can arguably be more value. Which, if we copy like a Lucio, then we can stay it even longer. Or other variables like that. But I don't think the Moira here is conflicting with the rest of the team because Moira would be sticking with Queen a lot and Queen would be taking a lot more damage than I think you're giving it like her credit for. So
Yeah, I get that. She's gonna be taking damage, but like,
and you can still play fast with the Moira too. So I don't know why. I don't know where your thought process is leading you with your confusion with Moira.
Like Moira just doesn't have like the hyper mobility that the rest of the team has, and she wants her team to play stacked. So that way, like her ulti is for a stacked team, her heals are for a stacked team, her orbs are like supposed to be against a stacked team. Like that's
Not
kind of what she
yes and
wants. She
no.
wants it stacked and she wants it fast because she has
You
like
can.
limited resources.
You're not wrong, but you can still play her differently. That is her. Remember what I said with like hybrid comps? How like you have to take into consideration the utility of their cooldowns and stuff. This is that moment. Traditionally, you do play fast and she wants everyone to be in the same spot, but in this specific comp, Moira plays for Queen.
I
Mostly
guess.
Queen, right? Because Queen's always going to be going everywhere. And Moira has her damage orb to get ticks or whatever, or like harass whoever's trying to flank, and she has the what word am I trying to use here? I guess what I'm trying to say is think outside the box a little bit. Because traditionally, yeah, you're not wrong, but in this case, she's played a little bit differently. The tempo aspect of it is still right. We are still playing fast, but she's not playing for her entire team. She's mostly playing for her Lucio and her Queen now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, hybrid poke into brawl, because we're waiting for that pick or finding that one person that's out of position. It is fast paced just by the nature of the Moira being here and the Queen as well. Just like with the shout and everything we kind of just talked about. So this was a clip that I actually recorded a while back talking about tempo. I know we already had a conversation about tempo, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to play this. Just to like kind of get the refresher in our brains. You know what I mean? So this clip was actually from when I coached this team before it got shut down. One of the players asked me about what tempo was, and then while I was looking at some of the replays that they posted for me, this is something that I noticed and I sent it to them and they said it was helpful. So I'm gonna play it for you guys. Tempo's complicated, but for now, I just want to show you a visual of what tempo would look like. So in this fight, we decide to use, or they start the fight with their wall, right? So I'll play this. They engage the fight with their wall, and then we soon after use ours. So our wall and their wall kind of cancel each other out. Well, I mean, and it also makes an X.
Overwatch 1, anybody?
It's not really relevant, but both of those
That's a
walls
good
kind of
window.
cancel each other out. No, it's not. And then this window also not also.
Hey man, they're playing for Fire
It's a
Strikes.
step
Fire Strikes still
into
kills
putting
here.
tempo into our favor because
For sure, that
since
Fire
these
Strike
two
and the
kind
window
of
behind him.
neutralize each other, we're
He's
then
close to
putting
it.
another step forward and saying, okay, we have this ultimate that we're using now, and now they either A, respect the window and wait, or B, they push past it because the window placement is not that great. But if they feel confident enough to push past it and then charge off your own symmetrical wall, then that's the play they're gonna make. But this was just a small example
They're
of
racing for shatter
turn
freeze.
taking and tempo in this small instance, and I believe we get a really big pick with the Fire Strike here, yeah.
See,
so
I told you.
Oh, even better. Because we had this window that immediately flopped the tempo into our favor. Because since we neutralized with those two symmetrical walls,
oh wait, I have
It's gonna happen when they stand in front of the window,
now this
man.
window
Come on.
bumps us up to a +2, especially with those numbers.
Not Chad and EJ.
Yeah, we just literally won the fight, even though we used 2 ultimates, which isn't really a problem. Ult economy is not entirely important, to some extent. But
It's
this is
muted,
just a
by the
small
way.
little thing I wanted to. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Have we
I think you're
moved?
just streaming the monitor. Give us the
I
rundown.
was talking this whole time, guys. You need to tell me this sooner.
Oh.
I didn't
Power alarm just
realize.
went off. That's crazy.
Okay. Can you hear this now?
Yes.
Tempo's
Alright,
complicated.
I gotta head out.
But
I'll be back, maybe.
Fire alarm.
Yeah.
Damn.
but y'all can hear it, right? For now, I just
Yeah,
want to
we can
show
hear
you a
you talking.
visual of what Tempo in the video like look like.
Not in the video.
So
I didn't hear any talking in the video.
Yeah, you have to stream YouTube itself and not just
that's so
overlay.
cringe. I'm streaming the actual. Oh my god.
For audio to pick up,
Bruh.
you have to stream the actual tab for whatever reason.
Is this better? In this fight, we
Yeah, now we can hear.
decide to. You can hear it now.
Yeah, we can hear the video.
Okay.
I just tried to full screen the video.
Tempo's complicated, but for now, I just want to show you a visual of what Tempo would like look like. So in this fight, we decide to use, or they start the fight with their wall, right? So I'll play this. They engage the fight with their wall, and then we soon after use ours. So our wall and their wall kind of cancel each other out. Well, I mean, and it also makes an X, but you know, that's not really relevant. But both of those walls kind of cancel each other out. And then this window also isn't not also. It's a step into putting Tempo into our favor, because since these two kind of neutralize each other, we're then putting another step forward and saying, okay, we have this ultimate that we're using now, and now they either A, respect the window and wait, or B, they push past it because the window placement is not that great. But if they feel confident enough to push past it and then charge off your own symmetra wall, then you know that's the play they're gonna make. But this was just a small example of like turn taking and like tempo in this small instance, and I believe we get a really big pick with the fire strike here. Yeah, so because even better, because we had this window that immediately flopped the tempo into our favor, because since we neutralized with those two symmetra walls, that's basically back to 0. But now this window bumps us up to like a +2, especially with those numbers. Yeah, we just literally won the fight, even though we used 2 ultimates, which isn't really a problem. Ult economy is not entirely important, to some extent. But this is just a small little thing I wanted to point out, when it comes to tempo, at least. So, was that helpful? Was that unhelpful?
It was helpful.
It's helpful.
Okay. Because I felt like the last time we talked about tempo, I didn't really do it justice. So I hope that did it justice. Did I have anything else I wanted to talk about after this? Tempo's complicated. Shut up. Is that it? Oh, I guess that's it. Okay. So here's the thing. Nobody's messaged me still. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop recording.